We are on Train 8, Amtrak Empire Builder, from Seattle to Chicago. I boarded it in Everett on June 19th. Today is June 20th. I will arrive into the Twin Cities tomorrow morning on the 21st. We have left Hopper, Montana. We're heading to Malta, and we're about 45 minutes behind schedule. Earlier in the day, we went through Glacier in bright daylight and beautiful sunshine. It was a lovely trip through Glacier. And as I'm going through this area now, this area that starts to flatten out, starts to stretch out, thinking about how often I have ridden the Empire Builder. It's almost 35 years that I've been on the Empire Builder. I didn't ride it every single year, but I've been on it that long. It's the most consistent long-distance train that I've taken on Amtrak. I have taken many of the other West Coast long-distance trains. I have taken the California Zephyr numerous times, the Southwest Chief, not as often as the Zephyr. I've taken the Coast Starlight. I think my first Coast Starlight journey was probably 30 years ago also, although I haven't ridden the Coast Starlight as often as the Empire Builder. Again, by and far, the route I've ridden the most is Train 8, Train 7, Train 27, Train 28. The 20s are the ones that go to and from Portland to Chicago. And the Empire Builder connects or deconnects in Spokane. So, for example, if the Empire Builder is eastbound from Seattle or Portland, it will be, hope I get the numbers right, Train 8 out of Seattle, westbound, and Train 28 from Portland. They leave at a coordinated time in the afternoon so that they both arrive more or less synchronized into Spokane that evening, early that morning. And then they connect the Portland cars to the rear of the Seattle cars, and that continues eastbound. So if you're riding the Empire Builder and if you're in a sleeper car, the first 2 or 3, it's usually 2 sleeper cars, will be behind the loco, and the Portland car will be at the very rear of the consist. It's a good car to walk to when you have time. Walk down to the end of the consist, and many times that rear window in the Portland car is not too muddy or dirty, and you can get some pretty good pictures and views from that rear window. I have been on delayed Empire Builders. I've been on many on-time Empire Builders. I have been on an Empire Builder that derailed, but it derailed after I deboarded in St. Paul. It derailed the next day in Montana. In fact, I was riding in the Portland car at that time. I had boarded it from Chicago, going to the Twin Cities, and I got off in the Twin Cities. And later, that next day, the Portland car, when it derailed, I found out that's the car that sustained the most damage. And I think there were 2 fatalities, and I believe the 2 fatalities were in that car. and there was about 50 people injured. So it was a very bad derailment, horrible. That said, I continued to ride the Amtrak with confidence. There certainly are many times when the tracks get a little bumpy and wobbly, and you kind of think you're going to go fly out into outer space. Fortunately, the train has stayed on the rails. I do believe with infrastructure, with the direction of rail travel in this country hopefully becoming more positive, that much more maintenance and refurbished and rail lines, etc. They just have to make that a priority. Keep all of this travel safe. I'm not going to go into a long, sad tale about the state of rail travel in this country, because I've always remained positive that it will return, or at the least not become extinct. A good ray of hope is that in where I live, the Twin Cities, between the Twin Cities and Chicago, they have started the Borealis route, which adds an entirely new line to commute between the Twin Cities and Chicago. It's you get either direction, you'll get there in about 7 hours, a little over 7 hours. I rode the first Borealis on May 21st from the Twin Cities to Chicago, and that was interesting. There was a lot of events, a lot of pomp and ceremony at different stations and different stops, and it was worth the ride. And basically, if you get the right days, you can do a round trip to Chicago for around $80, $90 in coach. That new route, the Borealis, is they're all coach cars with one cafe snack bar car. It's part cafe and part business class, so it's not a large business class, and there's really no reason to ride business class unless you get a free upgrade on that route. Coach is just fine. Seats are all good seats. I know there's a lot of complaints because they're using Horizon cars, and there's a lot of reasoning and rationale, and I agree with that they should use the newer Venture cars, and I hope they do. I hope they turn around, and I hope that the route proves successful enough that they'll use better equipment. But my time on the Borealis was fine. I returned the next day. I spent the night in Chicago and returned the next day. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that I have that new route to take to Chicago. And it also lessens, it opens up a whole new opportunity for taking different routes out of Chicago. Certain routes I was looking at, I no longer have to spend the night in Chicago to take the next train. I can just make that Borealis connection. So we'll see. Getting back to the beautiful, lovely Empire Builder, as you can see on this, it's a gorgeous day. Just the soft, quiet day. Fairly soft, quiet ride. The meals have been good. Some conversations have been better than others, but that's train travel. And always glad to be on a train. one other thing while I'm randomly issuing some thoughts on background audio for the scenery is that I don't compare pricing. The first response you get from a lot of people that aren't familiar with trains is they always say, "Oh, flying is so much cheaper. I can get there so much cheaper." And yes, all of that's true. There's no argument about that. But you can't compare planes to trains. They're entirely different forms of travel, and especially long distance travel here in this country. It's unique to this part of the world where we have long distance train travel. Very, there are long distance trains in China, but not many of us can go there and ride them. And it's a different atmosphere. Europe has a few long distance trains, but nothing to the extent like Amtrak. And then you have the Canadian long distance trains, and the Canadian, which goes from Vancouver to Toronto, Toronto to Vancouver, which is a little longer than the Empire Builder. The Canadian takes it's 4 nights and 5 days. My point on pricing and travel options are, in certain areas, you're probably better to compare the cost of driving and overnight lodging to pricing on a train. And actually, the pricing only gets steep on a train when you're talking about lodging on the train, when you're talking about taking a roomette or a bedroom. But another trick to that, if you're a frequent traveler, do most of your reservations on the Amtrak app. And if you have flexibility with your dates of travel, just check the dates and go on the dates when there's lower pricing. And you can find depending on, you can find deals. You can also find some outrageous pricing, which is kind of weird. That is the one weird thing about Amtrak pricing. But for the most part, I always try to give myself a lot of flexibility when I'm traveling, and it works out. If you're going to become a frequent Amtrak traveler, get on their point system. You can rack up travel points. It's a fairly good program. I've used it for quite a while. And also, I said the app for train travel. It's a very good app. It's not the answer to everything that you want in an app, but it's one of the best apps I've seen for booking train travel. I would always book Amtrak Direct anyway. I would not go through a travel agent. That's my 2 cents on it. And once you get familiar with the app, you can become fairly efficient on it. A long distance journey that I have not taken recently is the Sunset Limited. That's just such a hard one to book. It only runs 3 times a day. It goes from New Orleans to Los Angeles. I can't remember which hurricane it was. Way back when, was it Hurricane Camille? One of the devastating hurricanes that destroyed the South and destroyed a lot of rail lines. Destroyed that Sunset Limited. I believe there was a train that used to go further than New Orleans. I think it went all the way to Miami or Atlanta? I can't remember, but it did go. Anyway, the Sunset Limited and this modern era go is Los Angeles to New Orleans. But that train, like I said, I'm fairly sure it only runs 3 times a week. So it's very difficult to get it to coordinate with the dates that you want if you're doing other train trips. Like if I'm connecting with the Coast Starlight or the city of New Orleans from the Twin Cities or from Chicago, etc. So anyway, that one I've put off. I'm looking forward to taking that journey sometime in the near future. But the others, Coast Starlight, I'm familiar with quite a bit. Southwest Chief, I really love that route. I'm a desert person, so of course I like that route a lot. California Zephyr is excellent. And getting back to good old Empire Builder, which I'm on right now, is my familiarity with it is endless. But I'm still learning. Every time I'm learning, you'll always learn something about this route. Thank you for meandering along with me on this scenic journey here as we roll through Montana. As they say on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. And again, I appreciate your watching my videos. Thank you.